In fact, I believe that influence is important from the very beginning of our lives. Let's think about that for a minute. Changing another person's thoughts, beliefs, or actions. When you're 6 months old, do you have to be able to influence anybody? Now, at first glance, you might think, well, no, you really don't. You're 6 months old. But can you feed yourself at 6 months old? No. So you have to change somebody else's actions. And you've got this little influential thing hardwired into you. And what do? You scream, you cry. Rah! And what happens? Mom or dad, they get up, they come in, they get the Gerber, they do the airplane in the hangar thing like I've done so many times over the course of my life. Now, if you're 40 years old today and you're still using the cry method, probably not very good. But don't you know people like that? They try to engage, they try to influence, and then Now you grow up a little bit, you're 7 or 8 years old. What do you want when you're 8 years old? You might want a bike, but you don't have the money to buy a bike. So you have to influence somebody to go buy you the bike. You have to influence your mom or dad. Now you don't just cry anymore. You've learned. You're starting to pick up sales tips, right, from the other kids in the neighborhood. So what do? Well, if your kids are, how many of you got kids? Okay, man, fruitful bunch. Okay, so you got an 8-year-old kid, and if they want a bike, what do? Well, if your kids are anything like my kids, they just simply say, can I have a bike? Can I have a bike? I want a bike. Can I get a bike? I want a bike. Oh, please get me a bike. I want a bike. Can I have a bike? Please, please, please. I really need a bike. Can I get a bike? I want a bike. Can I get a bike? Pretty soon you say, yes, I'll get you a bike. You say, shut up. Shut up. Yes. But what do? You grab them by the hand, you march them off down, and you get them a bike, right? They've changed your actions. When you're in senior high, I'll speak from a male perspective. You see that good-looking girl, you want to take her to prom, you got to change her thoughts because now she thinks you're a dork. When you graduate from high school, you have to influence a college admissions counselor to let you in. When you get out of college, you have to influence a boss to give you a job. When you get on the job, you have to influence that boss to give you a raise. You have to influence people to work with you. You have to influence clients to buy from you. When you want to get married, you have to influence the dad to actually let the whole thing go through. When you want to buy a house, you have to influence a banker to give you a loan all the way to the end of your life. When you're picking out nursing homes with your kids, hopefully you have some influence there. Influence is about attraction. Have you ever noticed that some people just, they attract other people? Have you ever been in a meeting maybe where you say, hey, this is what I think we ought to do, and everybody goes, and then somebody else says, well, you know what we ought to do? And they say the exact same thing, and everybody goes, oh, yeah. And you go, well, I've been saying this exact same thing for, 2 years. Some people have influence, and other people have less influence. And here's why I think a lot of people do not succeed in sales. In fact, I think it's why a lot of people don't even really pursue it even if they get into it, because they're afraid that they got to go out and track people down and get them. Now, what's the deal with an animal that's being hunted? What does an animal that's being hunted do? It runs. When you're ambushing people and they sense that they're about to die, they run. How many of you have ever been invited to a backyard barbecue and you and your spouse show up and you throw open the gate and you walk in and there's a whiteboard? And you go, wow, first barbecue I've ever been to where there's been a whiteboard and a business presentation. And how do you feel? You feel like, whoa, hey, got to go home, clean the gerbil cage, get out of here, right? That's what happens when people feel like they're being hunted, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people do not succeed at leadership or sales, because they do not know how to influence, because they're hunting, and the animal runs away. But there's a better way, and it's about fishing. Now, what happens when you fish? What does the animal do? The animal comes. Now, I had a smart aleck say to me once, yeah, but Chris, you know what the problem with fishing is in your analogy? In the end, the fish still dies. And I said, au contraire. Leave it to the professionals, pal. In fishing, we have a thing called catch and release. I've never heard of shoot and release. See, once they're dead, they're dead. Have you ever gotten somebody to sign up as a consultant and to work with you and start building a business, but you had to just hunt them down and track them and hunt them down, and pretty soon they go, okay, I'll do it. And then 6 weeks later, you're going, they just won't do anything to build their business. You know why? They're dead. You killed them. They're dead.